It's not often that, 23-year-old loser coming out of college with a 2.4 GPA, 1.9 GPA freshman year on academic probation can come out, become someone with a doctor in front of his name, with a degree, experience the amount of success I've had.
Every story we get to share on Vet Life Reimagined is special and amazing. And there's one every once in a while that comes by where I think, wow, when are they making this into a movie? And that's the case with Dr. Zonram Liao. In high school, you would never have guessed he would become a highly successful veterinarian and practice owner, start his own supplement business that wins on a TV show called America's Big Deal, and express the most fun in his career. He may talk a lot about luck, but luck is when work meets opportunity. His story is one of community and a circle of giving. I'm so excited to share this episode, so let's get to the conversation with Dr. Zonram Liao. Do you mind sharing your beginning story, your childhood, and then up to getting interested into veterinary medicine?
No, of course, of course. First of all, thank you so much, Megan, for having me on here. It's an honor to be referred as a guest. I'm glad you guys thought of me and think my story is interesting. But yeah, I guess most people just call me Dr. Z nowadays, but humble beginnings as just Zonram. Growing up as a parachute kid here in Diamond Bar, California. And I'm guessing most of the audience doesn't know what a parachute is. Basically, when it comes to what a parachute kid is, my parents immigrated here in 1980. When English isn't your primary language and you're not able to pick up the language as easy as you thought you would, making a living here is pretty tough. So when I was 15, 16 years old, my parents basically left my sister here to our own devices so that they could, go back to the motherland, per se, in Taiwan and China and make a better living, make some more money so they can provide for me and my sister a little bit better. And they would just send money over here, back to the United States, here in, the Southern California area where we lived. They would maybe visit maybe once every 6 months or so, for a week or two. And they would go back. And, that's why they call us parachute kids, because it's just kind of, we were parachuted down in the US and left here as they fly back to the other countries. It was very different growing up this way. A lot of times we were on our own. And I was very, very lucky that the community here in Diamond Bar, California kind of took me and my sister in. They helped raise us, restaurant owners, boba shops, cafe owners. They would let us hang out for 3 to 4 hours, taking one of the tables to do homework, take naps. They really helped us out. Gym owners that left the doors open so I could shoot hoops until, midnight and stay out of trouble. These were my people. And as far as my community goes, it's really important that when I became a veterinarian that I come back here and practice and give back to them.
Yeah. And did you have a place to stay, sleep at night? Did you have family that was close that kind of was at least a stopping point? I'm just trying to kind of picture the whole thing.
No, yeah, good question. So there was a group of us, like 10 to 12 of us that were like this. In high school, they used to call us the lonely boys because our parents were never around. We would all kind of just stay over at each other's houses. Whenever one of the parents were in town, they would just cook for us and take care of us. Or sometimes our aunts would do the same thing because they would do the same with their kids. Even if they're just one city over, it's okay. We'd just hang out with them, all day. And there's just a lot of time spent with the family and the people in the community here.
Yeah. And I think that was also when you started to get interested in animals too, because weren't you helping watch a family member's dog or something like that?
Yeah. That kind of leads into it because, when you're on your own for so long, you kind of get led astray. I'll be the first to admit I was the worst college student. I came out of college with a 2.4 GPA. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had no focus. I just wanted to fish and play basketball and party. And, I was, at college, I was on my own, kicked out of the house because of my poor grades, working at a Chinese supermarket, stocking frozen fish at this time. And being a lonely boy, one of my aunts asked me to watch her dog for her while she leave the country. And I would take care of her dog and her parachute kid. even though me and my parents were on talking terms, I was still able to, connect with the community there. But during this time, the dog got really, really sick, and they found out, you know, the dog was vomiting and having diarrhea when I was there. I took it over to the emergency clinic. I didn't know what to do. They found a big tumor in the abdomen. At that age, I was around 23 years old, 22 years old. I had to make some really tough decisions on my own while also taking care of a parachute kid. And after I had to make those tough decisions, I decided, hey, I never want one of these parachute kids to have to go through this again. Me or a younger kid, like handling these situations on their own is not ideal, especially without guidance. So I decided the best way I could give back to the community, especially for the animal loving community like me, is to become a veterinarian and be able to offer guidance to the parachute kids in my area. So, very luckily, after I decided on this, I talked to my parents, told them what I want to do with my life, and if they would help sponsor, just a few $100s for my, applications into veterinary school, I'll come up with the rest. I'll make them proud. And very, very luckily, they said, okay, let's do it. And the rest is history. I applied to 30 schools with that poor GPA. Luckily, I had a, high GRE score at like 97th percentile, and some schools took me, and I was on the next flight over to Ross.
Yeah. Was that a culture shock going to Ross at all? Or how was your, arriving in Ross and starting this kind of adventure?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It is actually okay for me because I was alone for so long. So when I left the country, I went to Ross. I was still alone, So I was pretty cool with it. Ross is a tiny island, just like Taiwan, where my parents are from. I used to visit, so it went from alone in a tiny island type of feel to alone on a tiny island type of feel. So it was pretty okay. I acclimated pretty well, and honestly, I had the best time of my life at Ross. So yeah, it was good.
That's great. And I hope you bring that kind of perspective to other students, because I know a lot of, and I can talk to myself for myself too. Coming into vet school, you're nervous, you're studying all the time. And so the fact that it sounded like really embraced this experience as, yes, you were there to learn, you had a kind of a mission, there was a reason you came, but you also had a lot of fun as well. Is there anything else that you would like to share, maybe tips for people going through vet school?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, vet school is not easy for sure. I'll tell you that. But obviously, the way I thought of it was, I get a chance to pursue a career, and not just a regular career. Now that I'm going to find it even more, it surpassed my dreams. It's an amazing career. And the longer I stay in it, the more amazing it is. This 10 out of 10 beats stocking frozen fish at a Chinese supermarket. Let me tell you that. And the second I was able to find a way to not have to do that job or my previous job of doing exterior painting of houses in the summer like that, those are really, really tough jobs, and jobs that don't feel like careers to me that you can really fall in love with, that you want to do long term, versus veterinary medicine, where the second I step foot into it, it's like, oh, I found something that I can do for a long time that I could really, really love. And I can see the impact I can make doing this. And now that I'm 7 going on 8 years in, yeah, as a veterinarian, I see it every day. It's amazing. For students out there, just keep that in mind when you're studying. It's really an amazing career.
I can definitely tell you that there was somebody, at least one person, if not a lot more, who really needed to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. And you also mentioned that as you were getting out of vet school, you actually felt really confident that you were ready to get into practice. What happened in vet school? What did you do? How were you able to feel so confident leaving vet school and getting ready to be full doctor in practice?
Oh, I got really lucky. I'll tell you that. I got really lucky. I had a really good mentor. When I first started in the field, when I was applying for schools, I met this amazing mentor. I'm going to shout him out. His name is Dr. Wang at Pet Care Animal Hospital in El Monte, California. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he said, hey, I've seen your resume. I know you were a loser before, but it looks like you're ready for a change. And I said, yeah, I am. I really am. He's like, this is what you do. And he kind of taught me the ins and outs. I spent every break with him every single day, learning procedures, picking his brain, asking tons of questions. When I was working with him as an assistant, when I was working with him during my breaks, he's told me I've asked more questions than any other student he had, just because I'm so curious, not just about the procedures he was doing or the techniques he was doing, but why did he talk to this client that way? Why did he talk to this client a different way? Why did he start his own clinic? What do you think about when it goes into that? Picking his brains here and there, here and there, here and there. Because I shortly realized, or very quickly realized, he was pretty much about the same thing that I was about, giving back to the community. And so I was really lucky. I found a like-minded mentor, and getting that much experience with him gave me a ton of confidence coming out of school. And then I think you put in enough hours of work and you see what your colleagues are doing or your contemporaries are doing. And you're like, oh, maybe I can, just out of sheer will, beat that out a little bit. Oh, these guys are waking up at 7. Maybe I can wake up at 5. Oh, these guys are going to sleep at 10. Maybe I can go to sleep at 12. And, those extra 2-4 hours a day, 2-4 hours a day, it adds up. And sooner or later, you realize, hey, and no matter what type of amount of work that these guys are doing on their breaks, they're not going to be able to catch up, right? Because I put in that work, and it makes me feel a little bit better. Maybe it's irrational confidence. I don't know. But that's the way I guess, negotiated it with myself, and it felt really confident coming out of school. And I got lucky. It's paid off.
There are definitely times in life, in career, when it is that putting in the hours, doing the reps, right? And especially when you're in that learning stage. So being able to recognize when you are in that season of doing a lot of reps and really soaking in that experience and learning from it, asking tons of questions. Oh my goodness, if that was the only thing people could take away, especially our younger audience, like if you're thinking about going into vet school or you're in vet school or new grad, ask tons of questions. It does not make you look stupid. It makes you look engaged and interested. So love that was something that you did and discovered was really helpful in boosting your confidence.
You hit it on the head. And, on top of that, when I was a new grad, something that really helped a lot just coming out of school was taking on all these relief shifts. And relief shifts, especially if you could get relief shifts with another doctor there, okay, you feel a little bit better that there's a safety net. But even if there isn't, okay, if you're doing 6-7 shifts, you're doing a ton of things at the same time, okay? Number one, you're getting more reps than anybody else. Yeah. You're working 6 days a week when people are working 4, right? And you're getting that many more cases. And also, number two, you're helping to pay off your loans. Okay. So if you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, go ahead. That first year is so important to do this. And then year 2, year 3, you're going to feel way better.
Yeah. And I think you learn a lot about yourself too. I think that's a big part of the confidence piece is being comfortable in who you are as a doctor, understanding where you seem to excel a little bit more, those areas. I think those are all important in it. And it really comes with putting in the reps and trying different things. And especially if you can do it with someone else, that's great because then you have that safety net to maybe feel a little bit more comfortable to try something new or because you have somebody there you can ask questions.
It's the reps and it's the brain picking. That's really what it is.
Exactly. Now, you said you were confident, but then there's also the showing other people and getting them to be confident in you. So you mentioned that Banfield really was impressed with you and had you doing some pretty neat things, pretty soon after vet school. So one, how did they get that confidence in you? And then do you mind sharing a little bit about the first few years working with Banfield?
Yeah, honestly, I think I got really lucky. I have no idea how I showed up, topped up on their radar, I guess, but I just came into Banfield, new grad out of school, like any other doctor. They had pretty good salary, sign-on bonus. They contributed to my student loans, So kind of a no-brainer coming out of school. And I'm sure I was like any other new grad coming out of school to them. But in my area where I always wanted to practice and come back to my community, there was only one Banfield. And that was a brand new Banfield that had only opened for a year or not even, I don't think even 2 years before I was there. So essentially a brand new Banfield. And so I went in, I think the Banfield grossed like 300K the year before. And then I went in and I don't know how or why it doubled. When I went in there, I guess I caught on pretty fast. I took on all the relief shifts that the other doctor needed because it's just the two of us, which makes me a single doctor day for 3 days and her a single doctor day for 3 days. And then an overlap. And she was out in practice for about 3-4 years at that time already. So with a lot of lonely days by myself, but luckily I made it through. A lot of days, the relief shifts where the other doctor wasn't there, I had to cover for her. I think same thing. They kind of tracked the progress there and saw that we helped the clinic grow from 300K 1 year to 700K the next to 1.2 million the next. And they really liked that. So when the next Banfield startup opened nearby, they decided it would be an idea to send us over there and help start that one up. And we went ahead and did it. And that one became very, very successful, very, very fast as well. And yeah, kind of we somehow became correlated with this reputation of helping Banfield start up and become high volume, well practicing, high quality medicine clinics. And I was happy to help with that. And honestly, there is a stigma about Banfield in the veterinary field, but to be completely honest, my experience with Banfield has been great. I'll tell you that I have had great mentorship, great guidance. I was able to learn a lot. I think you just have to pick and choose what you want to learn, right? So because of being part of those two startups, now when I open my own clinic, hey, I know what we call KPIs, key performance indicators I need to look for in my clinic. I know how to create time efficiency and nurse efficiency in my clinic because of Banfield, what type of things you can do to create repeat customers, things like that really help. Yeah. And it was great. I practiced good medicine and now I bring a lot of, what I learned from Banfield to the table at my new practice.
Yeah. Now, just out of curiosity, I understand why you went to Banfield. There's a lot of perks. Did you already kind of early on, did you think about potentially owning your own practice one day?
So good question. The dream is always to open my own practice because I saw how my mentor worked and I saw him open the practice and the impact he had on the community by owning his own practice. So I saw that happen in front of my eyes and I said, hey, when I get a chance to, I'm opening a practice right in the heart of where I grew up, where the community is, and I'll give back that way. So yeah, now I'm able to do that. I'm really happy I made the dream come true.
Yeah. Now, when the pandemic hit, were you still working for Banfield at that time?
Yes, I
Okay.
was. I was.
That I'm sure was, as many people listening to this know, it was completely bonkers when the pandemic hit. Because you had mentioned Banfield is a high volume kind of clinic. You were seeing around 35 patients a day. And then the pandemic hit and that changed and a lot of other things changed. So do you mind sharing your kind of pandemic experience? Because something kind of cool kind of came out of it as well. So yeah, what was your experience?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Yeah. So something a little bit different about me is when the pandemic hit, I was working at Banfield. Man, pet numbers that I was seeing, I was seeing 30, like you said, 30 to 35 patients a day. But when the pandemic hit, corporate regulations cut that down to 16, 12 to 16 right away, just to help curb the disease and transmission and things like that, which helped for sure, from a public health point of view. But it left a lot of pet parents backed up. Yeah, when it comes to seeing their vet and needing to get a vet appointment for urgent issues, like, for example, diarrhea. So during this time, if you're a pet parent out there or you're a doctor out there, veterinary visits were backed up 3 to 5 weeks at a time, right? And, being from the community that I was practicing in, everyone had my number, everyone had my email, everyone had, my contact information or my Instagram. So they would be sending me pictures of, for example, my basketball coach at like 8:30 a.m. one random Thursday sent me pictures of like doggy diarrhea all over his sofa, his living room floor. It was really one of the worst images I got from him before in my life. And it was like blood in it too. And he was like, Dr. Z, Bambi has diarrhea. I've been up since 5 a.m. dealing with this mess. What the heck can I do? They say I can't see you for 2.5, 3 weeks. What is going on? And I said, and it was at that point, and really it was my basketball coach who sent me that text that kind of drove me into this. But I decided at that point to come up with some solutions that pet parents could get over the counter to help with their pets. So they can hopefully, give their pets some relief, give themselves some help. Yeah. And hopefully avoid a veterinary visit altogether if they could. But if they couldn't, at least, they tried something, right? So I started coming out with my own line of probiotics and diarrheals. I kind of sold it out the back of my garage, decided to slap a brand on it. And I was really lucky, people in my community loved it. It kind of took off. They suggested that I start selling online so they can buy it at their leisure. So I was like, oh, that's smart. I'll try that. Looked into it, researched how to start a Shopify store, and it kind of took off from there. I realized that this wasn't just a problem that the community was dealing with. It was a problem that pet parents throughout the US was dealing with. And they were buying products through my website. I was able to help provide for pet parents everywhere. And by a stroke of luck, I end up somehow catching the attention of people that work for USA Network. They put me on TV where I pitched to some big box retailers in a show called America's Big Deal. It's like America's Got Talent mixed with Shark Tank at the same time, and kind of launched me into the retail space. And I'm really lucky that my brand that I started that day or that year called Wellnergy Pet is now in retail stores like CVS pharmacies, Lowe's Home Improvement, Chewy.com. We just applied to get into Walmart. We'll see how that meeting goes. Then it's been a ride, but it's been a lot of fun. And really what keeps me going here is just hearing all the pet parents really, really grateful to have something they can reach for on their shelf instead of just, historically praying that diarrhea stops on its own, for example, or having to take their pet to the vet right away.
I love that how it started really with being very connected with your community. And, I still think that's kind of a theme for you is, that's why you went into vet med, was to give back to the community. That's how this started, was being very connected and, being inspired by your poor basketball coach.
Yeah.
That's terrible for him.
Yeah, shout out Coach Solomon.
Oh. And the other thing I want to point out, because I always want people to realize that they may have the power to do these really cool things. It's you see it at the end and you see it as a big thing, but you even said before we started recording that you are very not much a technology person. And yet you figured out a Shopify store. I'm sure you figured out like how to get co-manufacturers to help you produce these products. I seriously doubt you were in your tub, like making these. So that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm not a mad scientist. I found co-packers and co-manufacturers.
And so that's a big deal. You're still working on that. And then we kind of teased that you still had in your heart that you really wanted to open your own practice. So how did you end up getting the inspiration and finally actually opening up the doors right in the middle of your hometown?
Yeah, so it was one project after another, I guess, since COVID started. So Banfield full time, and then moving from that into full time Banfield plus pet products online, like we call it e-commerce. Yeah, running an e-commerce store, and then very quickly, I actually found out that there was an old veterinary clinic in my hometown that shut down. The lease ran out on the old veterinarian there. He retired, and the landlord was looking for another veterinarian to take his spot. He found me through like local schools, where some of the pet parents knew me, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I heard about you. I've heard your story. Do you want to take a look at this base and see if you guys want to take it over?" And the second I drove there, I knew where it was because it was in the heart of my hometown. And opening up a vet clinic there was something I had my eye on since like 2019 when I wasn't like 2 years into being a vet and I found out there was a vet clinic there. It is literally 3 minutes from my middle school, 3 minutes from my elementary school, and 5 minutes from my high school. So I was like, that's a location that I would want. And lo and behold, it dropped into my hands. So I'm not going to tell you it was more inspiration than luck. It's definitely a lot of luck, but starting January now, it's been open. I spent 2 months renovating it, which actually really, really fast, but the skeleton of a previous clinic was already there, so I didn't have to do very much. I just had to get equipment in. I had to redo all the counters. I had to get some kennels in, surgery tables, exam tables. And once that stuff was in, I could start running the clinic. And, man, it's been so much fun. It is beyond anything I ever dreamt of. Our clinic has kind of exploded in the last 6 months. And after being a part of 2 startup Banfield, I personally, despite working for those Banfield big name corporate companies, I've never seen a startup clinic grow so fast. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I think you said even being open 6 months, you are already bringing in revenue that outpaced like the first 4 years of your 2-doctor practice at Banfield, something like that?
Yeah. So I'm on pace. If I look at my revenue for the last 3 months, that gives me a pace of about 900K for this year, which was more than that the first startup Banfield did in like 2 years, So it's insane. And I'm just one doctor too. So it's been a pleasant surprise. I don't want to, blow steam on my butt or get my head too big. 'Cause it's a lot of work, but I'm telling you that the thing is, it's not a single day in the clinic since I graduated has really felt like work to me. I'm blessed. And, I get to see the people that help raise me, the aunties and uncles that help raise me. They bring their pets in, to see me. And it really feels like I'm giving back. And that just feels like fun to me. It doesn't feel like work. So it keeps me going.
Yeah, and you're doing exactly what you set out to do, back when you were that 22, 23-year-old. So you had also mentioned your dream was to be able to not have a parachute kid not be able to help their pet. So my guess is some of that could be financial, right? But how are you able to do something special? Like, is that something that you're also focusing on, is really serving that part of the community?
Yeah, actually, really, really good question. So definitely I have parachute kids bring their pets in to my clinic and, in the tough situations and in easy situations. But the key is, giving them guidance. Like, hey, this might be how, we raise pets in Taiwan, but now in the US, we know a little bit better. There's so much more research. Hey, this is what we can do. Giving them guidance there, being up to date on vaccines and flea preventive, something as simple as that. Or, when they're here for the tough times. Hey, even this morning, I had actually a patient come in with HGE, and it was a little poodle that belonged to a parachute kid, and he had no idea what to do. He said, "Oh my God, there's this bloody diarrhea. It looks like cranberry jam." Like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, "It's okay. We're going to help you guys take care of it." See, that's what I'm here for. But on top of that, I realized, hey, there's a lot of kids in this community that might be interested in being vets, also becoming veterinarians. And in my community at Diamond Bar High School, where I went to high school, where I went to middle school, there's 0 other students that I knew in my classes above or below me that came out and became veterinarians. None of them. And so I think I can become a face, a representative, Asian representation in the veterinary field. I think is really important and is really needed. And at the very least, I can do that in my community where now I have right now 7, 8 volunteers in my clinic, 3 of them in high school, 3 of them in college, and 2 of them in vet school. And so if I'm able to help these kids, these parachute kids, kind of chase their passion, trailblaze for them and show them there's a way to get into vet school, as a member of this community, I'm going to show them how to do it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Luckily, you had someone that was close to the community that helped you,
Yeah.
understand that, no, I finally figured out what I want to do, and I'm ready to dig in and make, a huge change for me and my community. And now you're able to do that, and you're doing it even bigger fold back. And I'm sure that's super exciting to watch them ask questions and get excited as well.
Yeah, you don't know that's the dream until you're living in it, right? People say you're going to do what you always dreamt of. I think even more so in my case, it's I get to do things that I never even dreamt of. And that's exciting. And I'm able to do that for the other kids in this community and help them. And like you said, do it in multitudes, right? At an even a higher level. Then I've done my job here. I've left my mark. I've helped the community, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah. And I can definitely see that's where your heart is. I also see that you are part of lots of other projects on the side, not to mention the Wellnergy Pet
Yeah.
brand, but I saw that you were like doing some maybe part-time work or something with Vetster, Leave No Paws Behind. Like there's some other organizations that you seem to be helping as well. What drives you to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, really, really good question. So a few different things, that kind of piqued my interest and I was curious about. Giving back to the community also, includes giving back to the less fortunate in the community, right? And it's not just the upper middle class. So I did want some experience learning the ins and out of kind of a low cost clinic and what that demographic struggle with and the communication with them and how practices that work there, what are their wins and what are their areas where they can improve and help. So that's when I kind of went into Leave No Paws Behind. That's when I went into the Street Dog Coalition that I volunteer with for every AVMA conference to kind of learn that stuff. I think it's really important to get some perspective there. So when you come out and you have your own clinic, okay, you know how to deal with different situations, provide for people that are having difficult time. I think it's just trying to learn more. Yeah. And now I got that experience, I think it makes me a much more, when I say holistic, I don't mean like holistic, like medicine wise. I just mean seeing big picture wise of all the things that people can be going through as a practice owner and as a veterinarian. I think that's important, And then on the Vetster side of things, I always thought, hey, with new technology, it's really important to see what's coming next in veterinary medicine. I did a couple of shifts with them just to see what does the future have in store for telemedicine. Is this something I would like to incorporate into my practice at some point? I just kind of wanted to get the ins and out of that. So I have these little projects here and there that I just am so curious about at different avenues in vet med, where vet med is going and growing. And I'm trying to pick up things as much as I can while also, running these two businesses, being a full-time veterinarian. And so this is how I try to get different experiences. It's through different opportunities like this and also some of my influencer stuff on Instagram.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So now I have to go find you on Instagram. And yeah, I still think it kind of comes back to you're still trying to figure out how you can serve your community. And when you are that community veterinarian, you do need to understand that everybody comes from a different place. And some people don't love the word empathy, but you need to be able to listen, maybe to understand their situation so you can best serve them.
Absolutely. I think it's the right word here, because everyone's going through something different and you try to relate to as many people that are going through different things and different experiences as much as you can. No better way to do that than to kind of live it yourself,
And at the same time, you're looking for possible innovations to make it all even better, which it's important because our world is changing so quickly. And you sound like you are a person that it's like, well, let's try something. Whether it's, well, let's put together some over-the-counter type of medication to help people, or let's see what new technology is out there that might be able to help me do my job even better. So you're continuing that curiosity to help.
I mean, the word is why not?
Right.
Why not? Try it, go for it. If it fails, hey, you've learned something. We call it tuition, and it's sweat equity, and you put in that tuition, be it if it's effort, if it's time, if it's money. And the most important thing is I don't see anything, even if quote unquote failure, you don't really see it as failure. You don't give up. If you learn from it, is it really that much of a failure? If you gain some experience from it that you can apply to a future situation, you didn't really lose, right? You gained something there. So experience as much as you can, be curious about as much as you can. And the time is not really wasted or lost unless you don't apply what you learn in that situation to your future self.
Exactly. Well, speaking of future self, I know that you're still very young in your practice. It's been doing very well. But when you think about your next few steps for yourself and your career, what are some of the things you're looking forward to and kind of striving for?
Oh, that's a really good question. Right now, I'm in so much, how do you say, a part of so many things that the next few steps, I'm sure is going to take a little bit longer than how all of this came about. This came about really quickly, everything I'm going through over the last 4 years, but definitely at least over the next five, if it comes together even quicker than it does, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But I think over the next 5 to 10 years, I can really build a network of animal hospitals in this area with like-minded individuals. I think is the most important thing. But I'm not trying to build a bunch of hospitals, make a ton of money. Actually, it can be a big headache to take on that much. However, if I find a like-minded individual that wants to give to the community and I can give the opportunity to someone to do that with another clinic where we can practice the same way, have the same culture, treat the staff the same way. I think that's important to just branch out a little bit over there. And at the same time, think about as I get a little bit older. I know you say I'm still young, but I just look young. I'm going to be 36 soon. And I think at this point, my measure of success isn't so much the money I make or an exit strategy or whatever. It's really about the impact I leave behind and the influence I leave behind on the next generation. So really, I'm putting a lot of thought, effort, time, money into raising the next generation of amazing veterinarians. It goes by decades and I'm going into year 8 and decade comes up in 2. And after that, that's the next step. And the philosophy is this, okay? And so I sound a little bit like an old person rambling. See, we're talking about age here, but the philosophy is if you just do good things, you try to help people, you try to help pets, everything else will come. And I truly believe that. And when it comes to the next steps, everything else will come for me. But if I keep doing good things, finding opportunities to help people, help pets, okay, then everything else will come. And hopefully I leave behind a good amount of impact and influence for that next generation by doing so.
That's a wonderful philosophy. And I think probably a big part of why you stay so energized in what you do is that's always the mission and the goal and how you make decisions is that you are trying to always do something good and give back. So at least that's what I see and feel when I listen to your story. So
Yeah.
I think that is pretty amazing and hopefully other people will appreciate it as well.
Yeah. I mean, we call it Ikigai, which means your purpose. If you found your purpose and you're working towards it, like I said, Megan, not a single day, you see this big, I almost cussed out here. You see this big giant smile on my face right now, talking about it and thinking about it and going into work every day. It's because of that. It does not feel like work. It's so much fun. It's so much fun teaching. It's so much fun helping people. Even on days where not everything goes your way, you did your best. I can go home. I can eat well. I can sleep well. I can wake up the next day and do it all again,
I love that. And I mean, I feel like you've spoken gratitude the whole time, but I do always love to end with this final question. And that is what is something that you are really grateful for, just like the first thing that pops into your mind right now.
Well, you already know. I am grateful for my community. I am so grateful for the aunties, the uncles, my parents who are back in the US now, the people, my mentors, the people that raised me, everyone that has helped me along this way. It's not often that, 23-year-old loser coming out of college with a 2.4 GPA, 1.9 GPA freshman year on academic probation can come out, become someone with a doctor in front of his name, with a degree, experience the amount of success I've had, and kind of get the opportunity to give back to the community. That's something I'm really grateful for. And I'm going to continue working to do. And honestly, it's to make everyone that in the community that's sacrificed and helped me and everything, make them proud. Yeah. If I can do that, I've done my job here. So yeah, that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful I get to do this every day.
I hope you enjoyed this fascinating veterinary story. We can make an impact in so many places. Check out the show notes for lots of resources. Please make sure you are subscribed on your podcast app, subscribe on the YouTube channel, and follow me on LinkedIn where I hang out the most. You can contact me on LinkedIn, on the website at vetlifereimagined.com. And brand new is that you can text me. To send me a text message, find the link at the top of the show notes below that says, send us a text message. I want to thank our longtime sponsors, Fire Consulting and Will Hughes, who support the podcast over on our hosting platform, Buzzsprout. You can support the podcast too. Just check out the show notes for a link. And I hope to see you next time on Vet Life Reimagined.